The moment the final whistle blew on Shedeur Sanders' debut, you could almost hear the collective groan echoing from Charlotte to Cleveland, but for very different reasons. In Cleveland, Browns fans were buzzing, convinced they had just witnessed the birth of their future franchise quarterback. In Carolina, the Panthers front office was shifting uncomfortably in their seats because what they saw wasn't just an impressive rookie outing. If you're into the real story and all the messy twists they don't show on highlight reels, go ahead and subscribe. And if you're sticking around to see how this Browns QB chaos plays out, you should definitely be subscribed. It was a performance that shined an unflattering spotlight on Bryce Young's slow start. This is supposed to be Bryce Young's story. The golden boy, the first overall pick. The quarterback drafted to erase years of quarterback purgatory in Carolina. But in his debut, he played safe. Too safe. Completing 4 or 6 passes for just 58 yards, Young's night was defined by checkdowns, quick dumps, and avoiding risk at all costs. It wasn't bad football, it was cautious football. The kind that keeps you from making mistakes, but also keeps you from making headlines. And then there was Sanders, a 5th-round pick. No national spotlight on draft day, no massive rookie hype machine. Just a quarterback who walked onto the field and played like he had been there for years. The poise was there. The leadership was there. The arm talent was undeniable. Sanders didn't just run the Browns' offense, he owned it. He made throws into tight windows. He stood tall against the rush. He looked calm, almost bored, in situations that would send most rookies scrambling. That contrast was impossible to ignore. Sanders' debut was full of moments that made you sit up and take notice, but one stood above the rest. 4th and 1. Most rookies in their first game would have handed the ball off and played it safe. Sanders didn't blink. He dropped back, read the defense, and delivered a dart to move the chains. It wasn't reckless. It was calculated. The kind of play you make when you trust your arm, your reads, and your ability to win the moment. That single snap told you more about his mentality than a whole game of safe completions ever could. The reaction from analysts was swift. They weren't just praising Sanders. They were asking the uncomfortable question. Did the Panthers get it wrong? Now, that's a dangerous question this early, but it's one that makes sense when you remember how the NFL works. In a league obsessed with immediate results, optics matter. And right now, the optics say that the number 1 overall pick looked like he was feeling things out, while the 5th-rounder looked ready to lead. It's not just the numbers. It's the way both quarterbacks carried themselves. Young's body language was cautious, his reads deliberate, and his throws conservative. Sanders' demeanor? Confident, almost defiant. He took ownership of every snap, like it was his team from day one. He didn't play like someone lucky to be there. He played like someone who believed the spot was already his. And here's where it gets tricky for Carolina. They can't panic publicly. They can't bench Young after one quiet game without looking like they've already lost faith in the investment they made. But the reality is, the front office is watching the same tape everyone else is. They see Sanders making NFL throws with NFL confidence, while their guy is still testing the waters. They hear the analysts comparing the two. They know the fans are talking. This isn't just a PR headache. It's a football problem. Quarterback is a confidence position. You can't play scared. You can't play worried about mistakes. If the Panthers don't manage this carefully, Young will start to feel the heat, not just from opposing defenses, but from the growing narrative that Sanders is already ahead of him. The irony here is that Sanders has none of the pressure Young does. As a 5th-round pick, nobody expected him to be ready on day one. That freedom is dangerous for defenses because it allows a quarterback to play loose, take chances, and grow without the fear of headlines calling him a bust. Sanders came in with everything to gain and nothing to lose, and that mindset is showing up in his play. He's not just throwing the ball well. He's running the huddle like a veteran. He's making protection calls, checking in and out of plays, and keeping his composure when the pocket collapses. That's not normal for a rookie in his first game. That's what makes coaches take notice. That's what gets you more snaps, faster. Meanwhile, the Panthers coaching staff is facing a tougher job than they expected. They need to push Young to take more chances without letting him force plays he's not ready for. They need to balance his development against the backdrop of an impatient fan base that's already seen another rookie outshine him. They need to find a way to protect him from the noise without insulating him so much that he doesn't grow. And while all of this is happening in Carolina, Cleveland is quietly celebrating. The Browns have been searching for stability at quarterback for years, burning through veterans, high draft picks, and trade acquisitions without finding the guy. Now, in Sanders, they might have stumbled into their future without even knowing it. The fact that he's flashing this much potential this early means they can start shaping the offense around him sooner rather than later. That's why this story is bigger than just 1 week. If Sanders keeps stacking good performances, his trajectory changes completely. He won't just be a backup with promise. He'll be the quarterback fans demand to see. And if Young doesn't accelerate his growth, those comparisons will go from casual conversation to constant criticism. The other factor here is leadership. Even as a rookie, Sanders is already earning respect in the locker room. Players talk, and when a quarterback shows up early, stays late, knows the playbook, and delivers on the field, word spreads fast. That's how you go from being the rookie to being our guy. Young has leadership potential too, but he's still building that presence. The problem is, it's hard to build it when someone else is already commanding the spotlight. This is why quarterback controversies are so brutal. They're not just about talent. They're about timing, perception, and the politics of the locker room. If a team senses that the guy under center isn't their best option, the mood shifts. Even if everyone stays professional, you can feel it. And right now, the contrast between Sanders and Young is creating exactly that kind of undercurrent. Carolina isn't in full panic mode yet, but make no mistake, they're in damage control. They'll keep backing Young publicly, talking about his growth and the long-term plan. But behind closed doors, they're watching Sanders tape just like everyone else, and they know what it means. Every great throw he makes is a reminder that franchise quarterbacks don't always come from the first round, and that maybe, just maybe, they missed out on one. The Browns, on the other hand, are in the perfect position. They can let Sanders develop at his own pace without the pressure of a first-round pick's expectations. They can feed him more reps, tailor the offense to his strengths, and watch his confidence snowball. If he hits, they've found their guy for the next decade. If he doesn't, they've still got a fifth-round investment who gave them a spark. That's a no-lose situation. But for the Panthers, the stakes couldn't be higher. This is the quarterback they mortgaged their future for. This is a player they sold to the fan base as the answer. If Sanders keeps looking like the more NFL-ready quarterback, that investment starts to feel shaky. And in this league, once doubt creeps in, it's hard to shake. The bottom line is this: the NFL moves fast. Careers are made and unmade in the blink of an eye. Shedeur Sanders just put himself on the map in one game, and Bryce Young just gave everyone a reason to keep watching and comparing. That's not the headline Carolina wanted in Week 1, but it's the one they've got. And unless Young takes a big step forward soon, this quarterback controversy is only going to get louder. Because the truth is, these kind of quarterback controversies, especially when they're born from rookie debuts, have a way of snowballing faster than anyone expects. It's not just about Bryce Young's numbers or Shedeur Sanders' highlights. It's about the story that begins to form in people's minds. And right now, that story is leaning heavily toward the Browns found a diamond in the rough while Carolina polished a stone they're not sure will shine. Think about the psychology in both locker rooms. In Cleveland, every player who lines up with Sanders is thinking, we've got something here. That belief feeds into every practice rep, every meeting, every game snap. The energy becomes contagious. When your quarterback looks confident, it makes you play confident. Receivers run routes harder, linemen block with a little more nastiness, and the whole offense starts to feel like it's on the verge of something special. In Carolina, though, the mood is different. Nobody's turning on Bryce Young after one game. He's still respected, still liked, but there's a difference between respecting your quarterback and being completely sold on him. The Panthers roster is full of veterans who know the window for winning isn't infinite. They don't want to wait and see. If their QB develops into the guy, they want the guy now. And when they turn on the TV or scroll through social media and see Sanders dealing darts, it plants a seed. This is where the pressure really ramps up. Young already has to navigate the natural challenges of transitioning to the NFL. Faster defenses, more complex schemes, and less margin for error. Now he also has to deal with the background noise, comparisons, speculation, and the idea that there's a fifth-round rookie out there already doing the things he's supposed to be doing. That's a mental test as much as it is a physical one. The other problem for Young is stylistic. His game is rooted in efficiency, timing, and smart decisions. That's great in the long run, but it doesn't always produce wow moments early on. Sanders, meanwhile, is played with the kind of aggressiveness that gets fans and media talking. He's taking calculated risks, hitting tight windows, and putting up plays that look good on highlight reels. The public perception gap grows with every one of those plays. And then there's leadership optics. Sanders walking into training camp early, putting in extra time, staying calm in front of press. These things get noticed, not just by fans, but by teammates, by coaches, by staffers who talk behind the scenes. That reputation sticks to you. It makes people buy in quicker. In a league where a quarterback's personality often matters as much as his arm, Sanders is checking boxes left and right. The Panthers, in contrast, have to find ways to build that same narrative around Young without forcing it. You can't fake leadership presence. Players will smell it instantly. That's why these next few games are critical for him. He needs to show not just competence, but command. He needs a drive, maybe a game-winning one. That makes the locker room rally around him and silences at least some comparisons. For the Browns, the situation couldn't be better. They can play Sanders as much or as little as they want, knowing that every good snap is another piece of evidence that they've struck gold. There's no rush, no crushing pressure for him to be perfect right away. They can let him develop organically, which often leads to more sustainable success. If Sanders falters, no one will call him a bust because of where he was drafted. If he keeps thriving, the front office looks like geniuses. It's worth remembering, too, that quarterback evaluation is as much art as science. History is littered with high draft picks who never lived up to their billing, and late rounders who became legends. Tom Brady, Dak Prescott, Russell Wilson. None of them were supposed to be that guy on draft day. The Panthers know this history. That's why Sanders' debut stings more than it would if he'd been a second-rounder. This isn't just a case of another good rookie. This is a case of a guy 150 picks later is looking like he belongs while our top choice is playing it safe. The fan element can't be ignored either. Panthers fans are loyal, but they're also hungry. They've endured enough seasons of mediocrity to know the feeling of hope slipping away. If they sense that Young isn't progressing as fast as someone like Sanders, the calls for change, whether realistic or not, are going to get louder. Social media will amplify it. Sports talk radio will dissect it. And before long, even a small undercurrent of doubt can feel like a tidal wave. And here's the real kicker. The more Sanders plays well, the harder it becomes for Carolina to avoid the comparison, even if the situations are completely different. The Browns' offensive system, their surrounding talent, even their game plans could be better suited for Sanders right now. But the context doesn't matter in the court of public opinion. Fans and pundits will just see two rookies, two debuts, and one of them clearly looking more NFL ready. For Young, this season now becomes a battle on two fronts, the opponent on the field and the narrative off it. Winning one without the other won't be enough. If he strings together solid performances without showing flashes of star power, people will still point to Sanders and say, that's what a franchise QB looks like. On the flip side, a couple of standout games could flip the conversation entirely and give him the breathing room he needs to grow at his pace. From the Panther perspective, the best-case scenario is obvious. Young develops quickly, puts together a statement game or two, and makes this whole thing a non-story. The worst case? Sanders keeps climbing, Young plateaus, and the what-if becomes a permanent part of his narrative in Carolina. And in Cleveland, the dream scenario is already unfolding. They're getting high-level play from a rookie who doesn't cost them a fortune, who seems unfazed by pressure, and who might be their long-term answer. That's the kind of break that can change a franchise's trajectory for years. They don't have to make a single controversial decision about the position yet. They can just let it happen. One thing is certain. This story isn't going away. It's going to hang over both quarterbacks all season, maybe longer. Every time Young checks the ball down on 3rd and long, someone will bring up Sanders throwing a dart in the same situation. Every time Sanders stands tall against the blitz and delivers, someone will ask if Carolina made a mistake. The NFL is a league of moments, and right now, Sanders has the momentum. He's not just playing well. He's playing in a way that commands attention. That's a dangerous thing for a team like the Panthers, who need their top pick to be the centerpiece of every conversation, not a supporting act in someone else's rise. If Young responds, this whole thing could become one of those early career blips that nobody remembers in 5 years. But if he doesn't, this debut comparison will live in every conversation about him, every breakdown of the Panthers' front office decisions, and every what might have been segment on Sunday morning shows. The clock is ticking, and the spotlight isn't leaving either quarterback anytime soon. The difference is, one of them looks like he's ready for it, and the other is still adjusting to the glare. The fallout from Shedeur Sanders' debut and Bryce Young's mute opener isn't just living in the film room or the locker rooms. It's already seeping into every layer of NFL discourse. Fans are replaying clips on social media. Analysts are clipping together side-by-side breakdowns. And talk shows are dissecting the contrast in styles like it's a presidential debate. That's the thing about quarterback stories. They're not contained to the gridiron. They're cultural conversations. The guy you drafted to be the face of your franchise is being compared to the guy another team grabbed late in the draft. And when the late rounder looks more ready, that's not just a headline. It's a threat to the entire narrative you've been selling. For Carolina, this is a tightrope act. They have to keep Bryce confident, even while the outside world is chipping away at that confidence with every highlight Sanders produces. Inside the building, coaches will frame this as development takes time, and preseason isn't the full story, but the reality is that trust in a quarterback is fragile, especially early. If receivers start wondering whether the ball will get to them in stride, if linemen start to feel like they're holding blocks for nothing, that erosion of belief can happen quietly and quickly. Meanwhile, Cleveland is in the dream scenario. Low investment, high return. Every extra snap Sanders takes now is bonus development. Every drive he leads is bonus chemistry with the offense. The Browns aren't rushing to crown him the starter. They don't need to. They're letting the story write itself. And the more Sanders plays like this, the more his teammates will gravitate toward him. That's the real power shift. When the locker room starts thinking, this is our guy. What's fascinating is how differently both quarterbacks are handling the stage they've been given. Bryce is calculated, measured, clearly trying to manage risk. That's not necessarily bad, but it doesn't inspire fireworks. Sanders, on the other hand, is playing with a measured fearlessness. He's not reckless, but he's not shying away from the moment either. It's a subtle difference, but it changes the way teammates and fans perceive you. One feels like steady competence. The other feels like momentum. That momentum is priceless in the NFL. It's why undrafted rookies sometimes win jobs over high draft picks. It's why coaches will ride the hot hand, even if the long-term plan points elsewhere. Right now, Sanders is a hot hand, and that heat could last longer than anyone expected if he keeps stacking confident performances. The 4th and 1 moment is already being replayed as a signature rookie highlight. That decision, drop back, scan, deliver under pressure, wasn't just about gaining a yard. It was about sending a message. I can win you this game. That's the kind of play that flips the switch in a coaching staff's mind from he's learning to we can trust him. The danger for Carolina is that Bryce hasn't had that kind of moment yet. Sure, checkdowns and safe completions avoid turnovers, but they also avoid opportunities to take control of the narrative. Fans and analysts aren't going to rally around a quarterback who plays not to lose. They rally around the ones who play to win. And here's where things can get messy. The NFL schedule isn't forgiving. If Young's early regular season matchups are against tough defenses, and Sanders gets softer draws, the performance gap could widen quickly. It's not just about talent. It's about optics. If Sanders is dropping 250-yard, 2 touchdown games while Young is grinding out 150 yards and no scores, the pressure won't just be media-driven. It will come from inside the Panthers building. This is also a lesson in how much opportunity shapes perception. If Sanders had landed on a team with no real chance to see the field in preseason, we might not be having this conversation. But he got his shot, and he made the most of it. That's the NFL in a nutshell. Limited windows, and you either make them bigger or they slam shut. Sanders kicked the door open. Bryce, in contrast, is in a position where the team is committed to him no matter what, at least in the short term. That can be comforting, but it can also create a dangerous kind of complacency. He doesn't feel the same fight-for-your-life urgency that Sanders has, and sometimes that difference shows in the way quarterbacks play. Cleveland's front office, for their part, has to be feeling like they've hit the lottery. Even if Sanders doesn't turn into an all-pro, the value they've already gotten from a fifth-round pick is enormous. He's ignited fan interest, given the team a potential QB succession plan, and brought an energy that's hard to manufacture. And the beauty of it? They didn't have to mortgage their future to get him. Carolina's front office, on the other hand, is watching all of this unfold with a careful poker face. Publicly, it's all about patience, development, and sticking to the plan. Privately, you can bet they're evaluating everything, from play calling to practice reps to media strategy, to figure out how to keep this from turning into a season-long comparison they can't win. Because here's the harsh truth. Once a quarterback gets labeled as the guy we picked instead of the other guy, it's almost impossible to shake. That label follows you, even if you eventually play well. Every game you have a bad quarter, someone will bring up the comparison. Every time the other guy throws a game-winning touchdown, your name will be in the same sentence. The ripple effects go beyond the two players. These situations can influence how teams draft in the future, how they manage rookie contracts, and how they develop young quarterbacks. If Sanders keeps trending upward, he could become the poster child for taking chances on late-round QBs who have the intangibles teams crave. If Young struggles, he could become the cautionary tale about relying too heavily on draft status as a predictor of early success. And maybe the most intriguing part, both of their stories are just starting. We're talking about one preseason game each. There's a long season ahead. Bryce could absolutely turn this around with a few breakout games. Sanders could hit a rough patch and remind everyone he's still a rookie. But right now, in this moment, the momentum belongs entirely to Sanders, and that's what makes this such a dangerous narrative for Carolina. If the Browns lean into it, they can use Sanders' rise as a rallying point. This is the future. Becomes a powerful message, especially if the rest of the team starts buying in. For the Panthers, the message has to be, stay the course. But that only works if the course starts leading somewhere soon.